Explain remote viewing, they're going to have to do a paradigm shift to do it. Yes, sir.
You keep referring to money. Maybe you can explain to people your lack of success with the lottery and numbers per se?
Well, either God says no, or it's a different process altogether. Remember, the lottery is a very quick thing, and it involves numbers, which are mental. The human being makes these numerical sequences. They're not found in nature. Nature doesn't say already there's 9 eggs here. Humans have to learn to count to say there are 9 eggs here. It's known in research of innate abilities that each child is born with a general mathematical hardware program in them, and they can count up to 5 and estimate the numbers thereafter. And that's innate in all kids, you know. And so I haven't learned how to do that yet. But the minute I do it, I'll never be seen here again. Let me go to the back. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I was wondering if you feel that your parents did anything to nurture the
No, they didn't. My father took me to the woodshed once. And my mother didn't know what to do. Although she was an accomplished palm reader. But it was my maternal grandmother who supported me. And I think it's because of her support and her nurturing that it didn't close down altogether. It closed down in my high school years and even in my college years. And it really didn't come back until I started doing these silly things in New York, you know. And even then, I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, you know, I thought, well, this is just a passing phase, and I'd better get ready to start earning some money some other way, because this can't go on forever, you know. I mean, you go to the SPR and you get paid $25 a day once a week. That doesn't really amount to much. And the only reason it continued on into SRI is because I was very luminous at the time. The CIA and other intelligence agencies finally discovered that the Soviet Union had been involved in this same work for 25 years. And there was now a psi gap. And you know, it was just the psi down in Washington and at all universities was, if anything, a giggle factor. There wasn't anything more than that. So they were scratching around for some talent to work on these things, and there I was in Time magazine. So that's how I got dragged into it. And what I thought would last no more than 3 months actually lasted 19 years. Yes, sir. No, in back of you. I'll get to you.
I heard a story on TV, documentary of a remote viewer's wife, which he believed was true, was actually abducted. And they said he was going to investigate. The wife was willing as to that, possibly being abducted by ETs.
Right, I'm not familiar with that.
Not at all?
Not at all.
They had the wife on and the guy on. The wife did, you know, she believed it's possible.
Yeah,
and they gave her a telepathic message, the boot.
I don't know anything about it. Actually, I wish I'd get abducted. I mean, look at this boring life down here. I go. No, if some ET said, "Why don't you come and live with us for a while?" I said, "Give me 1 minute to get my toothbrush and we're out of here."
Wouldn't you ask for money?
In this case, no, because... What were you pointing at?
Gentleman over here has a question.
Oh, Vince, you want a question?
Sure.
Okay.
This is an interesting one. In remote viewing non-human intelligence, have you perceived any direct threats to human beings? And if so, what was the nature?
I have not. No. Simply, but you know, I don't know if what I've experienced is remote viewing. There's no real way to get any feedback on it. So I only claim to report on what I've experienced. Yes, sir, right there. Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious, you mentioned that you knew Bob Monroe in New York.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you engaged in any activities at TMI in Virginia, such as his Voyager program?
Oh, I spent a lot of time down there, not doing his programs, but you know, he built this big house for his wife. It even had a waterfall in it, believe it or not. Really gauche. And then he didn't like the big house, so he built himself a little cabin up the hill a little ways where he could sit and smoke his lungs out, you know. And I would go stay there with him, and I'd light up my cigars, and pretty soon there was this level of smoke, and there were two heads above it talking to him. But Bob Monroe insisted that I was more talented than he was, and that's why he tried to pick my brains instead of saying, go do our Hemi-Sing things down here and things like that. I didn't want to do them anyway, because I've never used an artificially reinforcing thing. And in fact, at SRI, we had to prove that we were doing nothing invasive to our guys. I couldn't even recommend vitamins, for instance. We had to show because of the human subjects research code. You know, after the CIA got sued for giving soldiers LSD, you couldn't give people working on government contracts anything. And so if they were to take an aspirin, we couldn't recommend it. A nurse or a doctor had to recommend it. So, let's see, what was I going to say? I forgot. It's not surprising anymore. Let me get to people I haven't responded to yet. Yes, ma'am.
Ingo, can you talk about how the existence of human scumbaggery may inspire us to develop our superpowers?
Well, I mean, you know, if you're going to deal with human scumbaggery, which is the word I love, by the way, I'm an astrologer, and I've been trying to collect a pool of 40 birth dates for scumbags so I can do an astrological study of it. But it's proved very hard to get their birth dates because scumbags don't want you to know. And so if you ask somebody for their birth date and they say get lost, your antenna should go up there a little bit. Now, what was your question?
It's actually how our awareness of this human threat may inspire us to get moving.
Well, moving into what?
Development of our getting in touch with.
I mean, we could really use some telepathy these days. I mean, we really could. We can call it remote telepathy if you wanted, anything like that. But it sure would have paid off in the last 5 years if we had a little telepathy going for us. Because one of the things that telepathy can pick up on is human motivations very, very fast. And in fact, people that psych people out are actually doing that, but it's a low form of telepathy, so they might not be fully able to cognize the real intent that is involved. But yeah, if you're not going to be a victim to a scumbag, you know, there are a lot of them. And the art of a scumbag is not to look like one, or even act like one, right? And if you're successful at that, you can become a CEO and walk off with $3.5 billion of other people's money. Yeah? So, I mean, secrecy societies don't want telepathy, but the man in the street, which includes me, we could really use a little bit of it, you know, because we're victims to many things like that. Yes, sir?
I'm surprised nobody asked it before. You were talking about back in time. Who killed Kennedy?
Do you know the body count of people who have tried to investigate?
Wink, who killed Kennedy?
It's over 200.
Yeah, it's over 200 people. So we decided we would focus attention on other things that were...
Especially on CIA finance.